Learning new information in 2026 is getting harder and harder. There's a new AI tool coming out every day. Research and information is being done faster and faster with AI. And when it comes to tech, much of what we thought we knew is getting obsolete by the next 6 months. So how do we get around this craziness? Well, today I'm going to show you how to set up a second brain using Obsidian and Claude Code. This is very similar to the concept of a vectorless RAG crossed between the idea of having kind of a Wikipedia of your own. By the end, you're going to be able to find a way to organize the information that you're learning in such a way that you can refer to it easily and stay on top of it if you need to update it. No more scattered information, some on Google Docs, some on Google Drive, some on your desktop, some in Notion. We're going to find a central location to bring everything together. So if you love to stay organized, this episode is for you. And as always, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe for more content like this. Now, if you're ready, let's get started. So the tools we're going to be working with is Claude Code, Obsidian, and also Notebook LM. This is key here. Now, one thing you guys will see is I have this little drawing pad here, so I'll draw here as we go. I'm going to make sure that I don't have this setting on, so that should be good. Perfect. All right. So let's move on here. Okay. So today's agenda, we're going to start with some theory, and then we're going to go into some setting up and then practical. Okay, in the theory part, we're going to talk about how it basically works. What is in my head and what am I supposed to, what am I trying to kind of convey to you guys? I'm going to explain some Claude Code knowledge and CLAUDE.md, especially for those of you who are not familiar with these two things. At least it'll give you kind of a practical, and a lot of people are just kind of getting started. And then we're going to do an intro to Obsidian. If you've never downloaded, if never used it, this will be a really good intro to it. And then also Notebook LM. And I'll explain why Notebook LM is also important here. Then I'm going to set up the tools. We're going to set up our second brain. And then I'm going to show you before use cases, okay? That, now everything that I show you guys here, as far as resources like prompts and Claude MDs and stuff like that, you will get it in the resources as well, okay? So you'll get a link in the email. You can download it and start using it right away. Okay, so let's go into why this matters. Here's how we normally digest information. Whether you're a university student or you're starting with a book or an article, it typically starts sort of raw information. That's what we call the raw here. This is undigested information in your brain, and someone basically compiled it into a knowledge source like a book. We look at through this, we take notes on it, and then those notes basically pile up into something, maybe a notebook or something like that on it. And then in order for us to be able to then filter through it, we have to condense it. If you leave it in here, at some point you want to go and look at it, it's just going to be a giant pile. We need to condense things before we can refer to them. The importance of condensing things that it's easy for you to repeatedly refer to this information and memorize it. Otherwise, here's what happens. You forget it. Okay. So this is sort of a station where all the knowledge that you've gathered from this raw place, you've taken the most important information that relates to you, you put it in here, you've digested this, and now you condense it. And so this condensing can also pile up a lot too. And this is where we end up in these different places where it's like some of it are in our desktop, some of it are in Google Cloud, you know what I mean, or Notion, all that. And the importance of getting things of getting things to this condensed phase is that repetition in learning is very important. There's a lot of information coming at us today, especially with AI, new tools and everything. And for us to be professionals in the AI space, we need to be able to not tell someone, well, if you have any questions, just tell me, I'll just chat GPT it real quick. We have to still have some credibility in our knowledge. We still have to memorize things. And when the information gets too much, you get this information overload. So this is research by Hermann. I'm going to try to butcher this last name of Ebbinghaus, German scientist, is a psychologist, and he basically discovered that the more repetition you get on any subject, the forget curves start to flatten. You don't get as much forget. And he wrote a book on this as well. So I'll share it here. You can look at it if you like. But this is what this is about. Okay, we want to make sure that we can remember the things that we do. Otherwise, it just becomes just piling up information in place and be like, I'll look at it later. Okay, so condensing, we're going towards condensing and we want to make it into one spot. How we're going to do that is we're going to take that particular workflow that I just showed you and use AI and the tools that I show you right here. So again, we start with the raw information, and here's where Notebook LM is going to come into place. And I'll explain to you in a second what that is. It's a place that Google created. You can bring in a whole repository of information, put them into that place, and then you can query, you can filter through it, and you can come up with sort of your digested information. Okay, so once you have that, and then we use Claude Code and Obsidian to then file them under certain categories. And this is becomes our condensed information. And we're going to use, we can use skills, we can use Claude MDs to then organize this in such a way that if you just open it up and you want to have a quick refresher, let's say you got 30 minutes in the morning, you want to refresh your mind on a certain subject, Claude Code, it'll make it super easy. And you've designed it to be organized this way because it's kind of your file folder. And Claude Code helps you do that as well through the process. So that's what basically we're doing it. So it basically just goes from here. We're going to go this way. That's this direction we're going. And then from Claude Code goes to Obsidian. Okay. And this becomes our repository in a way. Okay. Okay. Quick introduction to Claude Code. If you're just not familiar, this will help you kind of get an idea about it. So we have something called CLAUDE.md. MD stands for Markdown. It is a type of file that makes it easier for machine and humans to kind of read. And it is basically a set of instructions for Claude to follow. Claude Code is designed to read this the moment it enters a particular folder. It is one of its architectural features. Now, when we install Claude Code, it gets stored in one of our app files, and there's going to be a CLAUDE.md inside there. This is a sort of a generic CLAUDE.md that applies to everything that we do with Claude, and you can put certain information, or you can keep it completely empty. I think it comes in completely empty. But if there's certain things that you want Claude to, how you want it to respond, or maybe you always want it to respond in certain in your voice, you can then customize this. Right. The thing to want to keep in mind is that every time this runs, it's a set of the tokens get used up. So you want to limit these. And the way to do that is to break them up into separate folders so that you don't just like put everything into one. And then every time you run it, whether or not you're working on marketing or you're working on finance, all these instructions run where it doesn't really matter. Okay. So that's why we create something called a folder structure that you see in front of us. Okay. Exactly. Thank you for saying that, Doug, because that's exactly what we're doing with Obsidian is we're taking a lot of this stuff and making it super easy to read. So Claude Code root folder is where we're going to kind of start with. This is going to be our brain, and we're going to throw in a Claude MD, and I'll show you what that looks like later. And it is going to be the set of instructions that I'll tell Claude how to organize folders, how to make folders for us, how to do everything. And then we'll have other Claude MDs inside specific folders. If we have a particular project that we're working on, we'll have it in there. Because with Obsidian, and I'll show you in a second, is you can actually open up this folder and just work out of this folder. So if you're working out of this folder, you want to have your Claude MD launch and give you instructions for this folder. Okay. Um, yeah, so that's what I want to say. And then the final thing here is just to show you how it could look like from an architectural point of view. You have your root folder, you have a CLAUDE.md that you see here, you have a folder, you have another CLAUDE.md, you can have a subfolder, you can CLAUDE.md, right? It can just really break up like that. And this way you conserve tokens and make it a lot cheaper for you to run your instructions and stuff like that. And then you can also build more things, more MDs, more other types of instructions. But every time you put something inside CLAUDE.md, just want you to remember, it will run automatically. Okay, moving on. All right, so introduction to Obsidian. I'm going to open up Obsidian and show you guys, but I'm going to talk about what it is. Basically, some plain text. It's a plain text file editor. Um, if you're familiar with VS Code or you're familiar with anti-gravity, Obsidian sits in that category. It is like the VS Code for knowledge work. What do we use VS Code for? Is to work on our coding projects, right? You can see all the folders, you can see everything, you can see, that's really what it is, okay? And let me open it up right now here. Uh, there it is. This is what it looks like when you install it. Um, and it's super easy to install. Just go to the website, you install it. I'm not going to obviously go through that. We won't have time for that. But once you install it, I'm showing you exactly kind of what you see. Mine is a couple of things that I added. Okay. Uh, it is a tool to show you markdown files in this kind of format. It's easy to see. Once you first begin, I'm going to show you something. You'll get a window like this. And then it'll say, would you like to create a vault, open a vault? A vault is basically a folder. Just think of it like that. And you're going to work out of that folder. In this case, I have a particular demo folder that I've created, and I opened, I click create like this, and I named the vault, and then location, and I click that folder that's on my desktop, and I say create, and I ended up right here. Okay, so just so you know how I ended up here. One of the cool things about it is that you can create what's called these wiki links. So I'm going to just click right here and I go over here. You see here, this is a link that's created inside this document that links to another document that's right here. And so we're able to create these connections, as you can see in this graph view that they have for you, between different files in your folder. So this is why it's so cool, because a particular knowledge can link to another knowledge. Very similar to like a blog on a website where you see a link and like, oh, I want to click on this, and then you go to another section of the blog and it'll like have more details of that information. That's exactly what you're doing with Obsidian. Okay. And then you can also have external links as well, just like a regular website, right? And you put it in and you do that. You can also put hashtags as well inside it so that you can search through hashtags. So if this hashtag, let's say, was like vault, and I want to kind of look up information, I have like 4 or 5 different articles, I just want to find it real quickly. You can just type in the hashtag in the search box and it'll find it for you. Okay. So that's the other thing about it. To create links is super easy. You can just take something like this and then you press the this. Oopsie. Oops. And then you do that, and there you go. All I did was I just pressed these brackets twice over the word, okay? And then it'll create it for you. If you want to just create a new document inside, you can click this, or you can press Control P if you're on, Control N. And you create a new document. See, every time I create something, now I create it. Now, this thing is not connected to any of them. So it'll just sit right here alone by itself. Okay. So just so you know, that's the whole point of Obsidian, is to kind of show you how things connect. And if I were to pull this, if you ever seen one of these like crime investigation shows where they're looking for the suspect, this is really what you're doing with Obsidian. Okay. So it's just an editor. It's for seeing text files. You can also see images as well. And you can either drop them in, or I would recommend to go in here, community plugins, browse plugins, and then there's one called local image plus, and you want to install this one. And it'll make it easy for you to kind of show images and stuff. It's just it's sort of basically a plugin, okay? And you can do that. All right. Um, so we're going to basically use Obsidian as our second brain, as a way of viewing it. But remember, it is not living inside Obsidian. It's just a folder on your desktop. Obsidian makes it easy for you to view and stuff. So essentially what you end up having is you don't have a folder of notes, you have a web of ideas. And that's what we're creating. Okay. I'm going to minimize that. Any questions? I don't see any, so I'm going to keep moving on. If you do, please feel free. And so remember, links are the things I showed you with those brackets, and nodes is what's on those graphs. Okay, and graph view is super easy. And just to show you how you get to graph view, you can just click on this right here. Now, I'm going to close these tabs, and you see it's like this. I can just press these three dots. No, where was it? Click tab, click the three dots, split down the right, and then click this tab and do this. And that's how I get this view, okay, where I can see the graph here as well. Okay, so that's just split view. All right. So that's that. Let's move on. All right, setting up. Okay. Here are the tools where we're going to basically, I'm going to kind of show you how I set it up. Obviously, setup can be customized the way you're working, but I'm going to show you how I kind of set it up. So we have Notebook LM, Obsidian, Claude Code, and I'm going to talk to you guys about this web clicker. This is a Chrome extension. It's really cool. You can grab stuff off the web. Okay, let's open up Notebook LM and show you. If you haven't worked with Notebook LM, this is what the interface looks like when you log in. Okay, and you can just create notebooks of stuff. Let me show you one that I created for this demo. Okay. Over on the left-hand side, you can drop in all kinds of stuff, YouTube videos. It'll transcribe it fully, and you'll have it in here. Any kind of PDFs, links, articles, documents, everything you can think of, you can drop it in here, and then you can chat with it in the middle. And it'll just focus on the knowledge that's over here. And you can actually select a few of them that you want to sort through. And so going back to what I said is when you want to condense this information, this is where it'd be like, okay, I'm going to just click these two. I'm going to chat with it. We're going to come up with a summary. And then what you can do afterwards, you can then take this information to save to note. Okay. Once you click save to note, it'll be saved right here at the bottom. Okay. I hope you can see. And then you can then convert this into a source, which it'll actually just drop it in here. If you see this blue thing right here, that's what I did. I made a note, I drop it in here. Okay. And you're going to use Notebook LM. Why do we use Notebook LM? Because it's free for the most part, right? You could do this with Claude Code as well, but why do you want to pay tokens, right? And if you even get the plus one, which I thought it was so worth it, I think I'm paying like $6 to $9. They just messaged me. They're dropping the price too. And so you get access to a bunch of other cool Google tools as well. I'm doing a seminar later, Stitch and all these other tools as well. Gemini, you get, a little more usage out of it, right? It's to me, it's worth it. So you can just take and do that. And so the idea here is to take all your knowledge, figure out what's important, make notes about it, right? Here you can actually create quizzes, right? All mind maps, all kinds of things as well that you can actually bring over later too, if you want. But the idea here is to kind of sort through. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then let's set up our Obsidian. Okay, so okay, you know what? I'm going to show you Claude Code first because that's more important. So how do we do that? Well, what I did was I just created a folder, Second Brain. I'm going to show you what that looks like right here. This is my folder, okay? And you might be wondering, oh, all these like folders, how did you create it? I'm going to show you one prompt that you're going to be able to use, okay? But this is basically it. Everything is in this folder, okay? Let me bring this back here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up that folder in VS Code, okay? I'm going to right click on it, open up the VS Code, and I'll show you why VS Code. Because we're going to open up Claude Code in VS Code. How do I get the screen? I'm going to close it. Let's terminate this. Basically, this is VS Code. All I did was, which you can do in, I'm not sure about Mac, but I'm sure it's very similar. I just press the Windows button and I press the right, and it'll create half a screen for me. I'll put it on the side here. And then I go over here and I go to Terminal, New Terminal. See, it's down here. Grab PowerShell, throw it up here. Boom. Close any of these things. Now I got here. Now I'm going to do, I already downloaded and installed Claude. So I'm going to press Claude. I'm in my Second Brain, so Claude is opening up in Second Brain. Now I got Claude, nice, good screen that I can work with. We're going to open up Obsidian in basically the folder that we created. So all I did was I opened up Obsidian and then I selected the folder I showed you earlier. What was it? What we did here? Manage vaults. All I did was go open a folder as a vault. I press open, and then I selected the folder that I wanted. Okay, and then we get this. Hold on. Are you not going away? Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Computer is acting weird. Are we frozen? That's so weird. Sorry, guys, 1 second. It just froze on me right now. Okay, I'm going to open up Obsidian again. 1 second. Technical difficulty. There we are. Okay. By the way, if you don't like the super white, Control P, toggle dark mode. You can toggle into dark mode. It makes it a little bit easier to read, right? I'm just doing the light mode because it might be easier for you guys to see on the screen. Okay. So I got graph view here, and then you got, and this is basically my folder. I just open it up in now, what I can do here is click on this. I press the Windows key, press left, and now I have probably close this tab right here. We don't need graph view for now, just so we're looking at it. Make some adjustments if we want to. That's basically it. But essentially, now I got on the right-hand side Claude, and then we got the vault, our particular vault that we're working out of. Okay. Now, this is sort of the basic setup. Now, got here a question: can Claude Desktop or Claude AI work in this workflow as well? I would say it will be a little bit challenging because you're working out of the application itself. I'll show you why this is important because you want it every time you chat with Claude Code right now, you can see the changes right in front of you on live in Obsidian. And that's the whole point is so that you can see versus the other one, you would have to, I guess you can kind of do with the Claude desktop as well. One of the differences, which is very important, is that the Claude Desktop is very strict when it comes to making changes in folders. It's designed to work out of an environment and a virtual environment, versus Claude works directly within, like basically has access to your entire computer. So you have a little more freedom with Claude Code. I would recommend to work with Claude Code. Okay, so that's my take on that. Um, I have this prompt that I put together. Okay, which says create a folder structure for my knowledge base. We don't imagine we don't even have any knowledge right now. Okay, it's going to create something called raw. We have right here. It's going to create another folder called wiki, and it's going to create another folder called output. The raw is the stuff that we basically filtered through in Notebook LM, or any other form of information that we read or we compiled is where we're going to put into raw. And that becomes raw for Obsidian. Okay. And then we have something called wiki. Remember, with the information that we have, we can make links between things, right? We can connect them. And so the idea here is to take this information and create these like little Wikipedias about them and link them together. And I'd be like, oh, that sounds really complicated. How do we do that? We're going to do that with a CLAUDE.md file. And it's basically designed to do that. And I will give you guys this. So there's a vault structure. It has a wiki system. It'll create the structure for you. And then it'll do a bunch of things I'll go into in a second. But in our raw, we're going to have also folder structures as well. When we digest certain information, and turn them into wikis. That's what we're doing. We're taking the raw information, we're turning them into wikis. We can then archive them and put them into a separate folder. And so that raw folder stays empty. This is information that I have gathered before, and this is for demo purposes. Git fundamentals. Where did I get Git fundamentals, by the way? It was right here. It was information that was right here, right? I was looking through these things and I made the notes and I compiled them and I brought them over Obsidian. Now you might be wondering, why don't you just connect these two and so make it automatic? That's the whole point, is that it's to get you to look through the information, go through a round of learning, and then take the most important information and then bring it into your repository here. And you should do this manually. Otherwise, this just becomes a dumping ground for more knowledge work, right? That you have to do later. The idea is to just create these wikis and make it easy for you to reference and find those and learn this information faster. And so this also becomes very important if you're building compiling a bunch of SOPs for your company and you want to train the new employees on something, right? This makes it easier for them to digest that information as well, right? Um, so so that's the idea here. Okay, now these wikis are generated using this Claude code by running a command, and they'll take this information, digest it, and then turn them into stuff like this. So here we have Git, some articles that are referencing it. And so you see these things are all connecting to each other. Local, this is connecting to this one. And it goes to more depth, just like that blog that I was talking about. And then we have these hashtags as well that we can search from it. And then we have something called a master index, which will have within this particular wiki folder, related to Git, it'll have a master index. And as we add more stuff, it'll update this Git more and then update this index as well, because it's important to have an index. The index also becomes important later because what we have in our Claude is we tell it when I ask a particular question, let's say, or let's say we are updating something. I want you to go into this master index, look through it first, find the relevant information, and then do it. Rather than getting it to read through everything, uses up a lot of tokens, we're going to tell it to go through this and figure things out. Again, a way to cut cost when it comes to token usage. Okay. Now, how do I create this folder structure? I showed you guys this. You just grab this and you just dropped it into Claude Code, and then it'll do it basically for you without even this CLAUDE.md in there at this point. And then you can throw this CLAUDE.md in there, and then it has now when I say compile, I've put in some terminology, and this is the cool thing about a CLAUDE.md is that you can give these instructions, these commands that you can say. Now if I say compile, it'll compile something, and then basically what it reads the raw file, and because it's pointing to the stuff inside the raw folder, it'll read whatever it's in there, decide which topic it belongs to, write a wiki article, key takeaways and links and all that kind of stuff. It does it all for you. And this is my version of it, but you guys can take this now and then basically optimize it for your own use case, right? This is sort of a starting point for you. You can do querying, so ask kind of questions, and here's like a bunch of questions that you can ask, like what are your key findings on this? Kind of like RAG in a way, but the contents of the information doesn't live in some kind of a vector database. It lives within your knowledge, within your desktop, basically. Okay, and then you can relate information together too, right? Because now you have that relationship built inside this place, and you can get more like deeper in a particular knowledge. One of the things that I always try to better investigate is the difference between Claude Code and Claude Cowork. What are things that we can do in one and that really can't do in the other? And specifically around this Claude.md and the folder structure things, right? It'd be very hard to do this without having all this information inside things and then be able to all being linked together so that you can easily query them, right? And that's why I said it's easier to do with Claude Code, because you may need to jump between different folders as Claude Code is working and figure things out. Okay. Also have something called save this. So if I say, for instance, like chat with it and I really like what it does, it'll basically save this as a particular wiki for me as well, right? It'll create a new file and all that kind of stuff. It does it for me, right? Doing the chat conversation that I have with Claude. Okay. The also feature about it is that you can do an audit. And I'm going to get that question in a second. Sometimes when you are really building this out, there might be some inconsistency, contradiction information in there. And so I put in this in there just as like a safety net, so that you can later, maybe at the end of the week or something like that, you can do a quick audit, or even after you do like some digestion of the raw information, you can check it out and make sure that there's no contradiction in there as well. Okay, and then some conventions and also projects. So let's say you don't want to dump everything inside uh, your main brain, right? Even even the human brain has compartments, right? And so let's say you want to work on a specific projects and you want all the knowledge base to be referring to that. So you're going to start a new project, and I'm going to just do one just for the heck of it. I'm going to say start a new project, right? Because I already gave that instructions to Claude and it already read it. The moment I open it up, it read that. And what it'll do is um, it'll create some project like this and create the same exact folder structure that you saw um, inside this. And I created a project called FIFA 26. Let's say I want to track all the stuff that's happening to FIFA. I don't want that to be in my general knowledge because my general knowledge would mean a bunch of things. So I can compartmentalize things. So if I did this right now to start a new project, it's going to ask me for the project name, right? And I'm going to say, okay, let's call it, I don't know, Claude Code. Okay. And it'll go through and it should create another project for me under this category with all the folder structure that you saw earlier here. So we have raw. So we take the raw raw information, we drop it in here. And how do we do that? We just create basically a new file, right? Just new note, right? And then we drop it in here. Oh, well, it did it. You just grab it and throw it back inside here. There it is. Okay. So yeah, and once you what's the command again? Say compile, it'll compile the information in here and throw it into an archive it because it's already been basically digested. Okay. Anyway, it's saying do you want to proceed? I'm not going to waste tokens, but that's the idea, right? To do that. Okay, let me just jump back to the slides here because we're getting there, and I think I even got ahead of the stuff that I was going to show you guys. So yeah, so just to basically really quickly, this is what the visual of what that looks like. We have this vault, basically that's what Obsidian calls, you can think about it as like a folder. And then we have the raw, where our information that we gather from here that we've compiled, now we turn them into notes, we bring those, and we can also use this extension, Chrome extension called Web Clipper. It's amazing. So you just go to any source. Let's say here, I found this LinkedIn article. I really liked it, and I was looking through it. And let's say I like everything, and I just wanted to bring it all in. So I just basically go to the extension. I've already installed it right here. You click Add to Obsidian. Now, when you set it up, um, I'll show you one and go to the options. Here, click on Defaults. Note location raw. Why? Because that's the name of our folder. So it's already connected once you get it. And so everything that you basically extract goes inside this raw folder right here. And actually, guess what? Um, Complete Guide to Claude Code. That's the title of that article. That's exactly what that article is. And that's what I did. Once you do that, once you click once you click Add to Obsidian, it'll show up right here, just like the way you see it. I mean, touch it. That's exactly what it is. And then you can then tell Claude, okay, can you compile it and turn it into wikis, right? Or you can edit it yourself, right? Sit here, edit it, take out some things, right? Do some things. Um, that's the goal here, right? To kind of compile things and organize them. Now, let's go back to the lecture right here. Yeah, so here's the flow that you're doing things, right? oh, let me just talk about this before I go here. So we have the raw, we have the wikis, and then we have the output. The output is if you have chat conversations with it and you ask questions, those conversations can then be asked to put inside the output. Okay. Store them in a different location. That way, you ever want to reference back, I had this conversation with my AI. I wonder, they said some cool things. I want to go back in to look at it. There it is. It's right there. And if you ever want to delete it, you just delete it, right? That's one way. Again, it's up to you how you want to organize things. This is just what I thought would be good. And then we have, subfolders, right? As you saw, projects, and then they have their own index. They have their own everything that I showed you. Okay, so basically covered. That's the workflow. Add to raw, compile. You can do queries, you can read to it, whatever you like to do. And you can do some audits periodically, right? To make sure that there's not contradictions. And if there are, maybe you want to look through and you might learn something new, right? This is all about, taking this knowledge and actually learning it, right? And repeatedly getting exposed to it so you can memorize it, right? And so we kind of did that. Now, in terms of our use cases, I showed you Notebook LM. That's a cool way to do it. Just grab it and paste it in a new note, and then you can do that. Chat conversations. Let's say you're in Claude and you're doing this. Just grab, you liked what it said, just grab it and bring it in. That way it's not sitting here, it's not sitting there, it's not, everything is brought into Obsidian at the end of the day to get digested and organized in the way you want it, right? And then we have on our articles, I showed you, you can grab this extension, right? Um, and then go grab anything off the web that you want, right? And then personal notes. This is one of my favorite. I write a lot. I tend to write a lot, like probably 1,000 notes on my notepad because I'll be at the gym and I'll think of something and I want to write it down. Well, you can just email it to yourself, grab it, and then create a separate folder, and then just like, keep personal notes in there and keep personal notes organized as well, right? That way they're all in one location. It doesn't mean that you can't use these other sources like Google Docs and all that kind of stuff. But if there's information that you find is valuable that you want to preserve and you want to reference later and repeatedly get exposed to it, then it's good to bring it into one central location that you can easily view it and you can organize it and you can customize this, right? You can sit there and come up with I'm sure you guys will be very creative with this stuff, right? And come up with all kinds of folder structure, and please do let me know how you do it. But this is the CLAUDE.md that I have, right? Okay. And you'll get this, by the way, so you can build on it. Okay. So that's it for me, guys.